Syndicate. My name is Greg, and I have acquired this group through a hostile takeover. They are now majority owned, 50.1% by me, after I tricked JJ into signing a sheet saying it was for his prizes that he won. And I am the only one who gets a prize. This is episode 43. I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced, which, if you don't know, is a Star Wars quote. You nerds.
With that being said,
yeah, he just drops it, doesn't even involve us in.
Welcome to episode 43. Tonight we have Greg from Nickel City X-Wing. For some reason, I almost called you Radio TCX, but then I remembered you're too loud for that.
Yeah, way too loud.
Yeah. Also,
I love the question mark at the end of X-Wing. Nickel City X-Wing?
X-Wing? Is that what we do here?
I don't know, because you stream everything. So, I mean, for a while you were streaming Halo. You won't stream Elden Ring, but, you know, we're going to get you.
I returned it.
You returned
it for 45 minutes and I returned it. This game's not for me.
Are you just that terrible at video games?
Yeah, I'm terrible at video games that give you absolutely no tutorial and don't explain what's happening. Like they didn't. The
what do you mean no tutorial? Sense. They give you a tutorial.
There's no tutorial. No, they don't. I literally.
I saw
100% is a tutorial.
I watched his cast.
Is a tutorial.
No, I watched his cast. They literally they dumped them into an open field where he gets immediately murdered by like a giant boss.
Yes, that's part of the story. And then you get the tutorial in the cave. I've done it with 4 different characters. They're 100% is a tutorial.
No tutorial.
I didn't know there was one either. I didn't get one.
Fault.
No, go back to the full screen of me. We don't need all this whole 4-way thing. What is this?
So all right. So welcome to episode 43, our chaotic intro. I guess I just found out Greg owns 51% of the shares, so hopefully that means we get some of the percentage of the cut of profitability, because right now we got none. So I'm assuming Nickel City will be funding
49% of none. So
hey, 50% of 0 is still 0.
Yeah,
I'm saying I'm requesting funds to upgrade the stream. There you go.
We're getting nickels in the mail.
Nickels in the mail. So I want to do 2 things. So first off, I didn't know we had a comedian in the show tonight. You have a comedic album. I did not know that at all.
Yeah,
wait, who does?
Greg,
he does stand up. Yeah,
Greg's released a comedy album.
Yeah,
and I didn't know if Twitch would flag us because I found your stuff on Apple Music, and I didn't know if at that point I would get flagged if I played some of it.
My YouTube videos, when I do something with my stand-up on it, it flags me, and I have to request, I have to dispute the thing through YouTube to myself to let it go.
I grant myself authorization.
I literally have to do that 100%. I uploaded my album on my own YouTube, just like the video of it, because it's an audio album, but I recorded it as well. So I just uploaded it to my YouTube private. No one can even see it except me. So I just always have it. And it flagged every single track from the album. And I literally had to fill out 15 or 16, however many tracks the album is. I had to fill out a dispute for each single track to be this is me recording this album that you're saying is infringing.
So if you put it out yourself, then correct? You didn't use a media company or anything. You're not
I use CD Baby.
Okay.
For distribution,
but not for ownership though, right? You still own all the rights.
I own everything on it, but they distribute it all.
Okay.
So that's the reason why it's on Apple Music and it's on Tidal. None of you have Tidal, but it's on it.
What is Tidal?
It's the Napster by Jay-Z.
Oh. All right. I guess JJ, we should look at getting a Tidal. I don't know what the fuck it is. So
yeah, no, that's.
I don't think you need it. I don't think it has anything that you can't get from Spotify. So
Greg is suing Greg for being Greg.
That's right.
Fair enough. All right. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to do is I have some Star Wars facts and statistics that none of you guys know about, but you probably know about it. But we're gonna go through and I'm gonna read off some Star Wars trivia questions, and we're gonna keep track. JJ's gonna keep track of score, and we're gonna determine who will be the Star Wars winner.
Okay.
All right. So we'll
Is
do
there
an
a
easy
buzzer system, or how do we do this? Is it just like shout your answer out?
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand, I guess. I guess that means I actually got to pay attention to you guys. Shit. All right. How about this? We'll start with an easy one. The amount Harrison Ford was paid for Episode 4.
Oh.
Greg.
15,000.
Huh?
$15,000.
All right. JJ? No, that was incorrect.
A 6-pack of beer and a handshake.
That is definitely incorrect. Charles?
Harrison Ford's clearly a Scotchman. No, I'm just kidding. 37,000.
All right, so we're gonna have to give it to Greg. It was $10,000. Now, if anybody could do the conversion, I would love to know what that is in real people money, like in today's
Real
money.
people money.
Like $10,000.
That's a tank of gas and an H3.
10,000 inflation, 1976. 36,394.
That's still like
minimum wage.
peanuts comparatively.
So no wonder he's very no wonder he was a carefree bounty hunter. He had to make his money somewhere.
Let's just say he got more for episode 5.
I would assume.
Wasn't he a carpenter on episode 4, like building sets?
Yeah, he was. So he was in American Graffiti, and
which is a great movie, by the way.
He was working as a carpenter, and Lucas actually asked him to come down to like read at the auditions with people. And then as he's reading, Lucas was like, here's a good-looking guy with an attitude problem. Who does that remind me of?
Wasn't the role originally
Chewbacca.
for Burt Reynolds?
You would not believe like the list of people that auditioned for Star Wars. Like Kurt Russell, like just all these like famous ass people.
I would have loved to see Christopher Walken as Han Solo.
Oh my god.
Oh, that would have been
terrible.
Yep. No. That would have been the worst, JJ.
Chewie, you got to get aboard the Millennium Falcon.
All right. Next trivia question. Who are the only 2 Star Wars characters to appear in all official Saga movies? Greg.
R2 and C-3PO.
Yes. And Greg, you're kicking it. 400 points. 400 points. I don't know how to score this, so you get 2.
This is the whose line is it anyway of trivia shows, because the questions are made up and the points don't matter.
Well, or we could do new X-Wing 2.5 point ratio, so you get 1.4 points for that, Greg. Okay. Great. All right. How much merchandise was sold in 2015?
A lot.
In Star Wars in general, or are we talking about like
Star Wars in general? Not yeah, we're only doing Star Wars questions, JJ. All right. Greg.
A ridiculous amount.
Oh my god. JJ.
$2.7 billion.
Charles.
$1.
All right, JJ gets it. It was $19.4 billion.
Figured if it was closest to the actual dollar amount without going over, I might stand a chance with $1.
They bought the thing for like 4.6 billion or some shit.
That would include the X-Wing ships. Yeah, the X-Wing ships are $1. All right. What was the amount of time that Vader appeared in the original Episode 4 movie? Total amount of time. Charles.
8 minutes.
All right. JJ?
4 minutes.
And Greg?
2 minutes, 8 seconds.
No. 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Charles is the closest.
Woo!
All right. Does Tatooine have a place that it was mirrored after in real life on this Earth? JJ?
Yes. It is in the Middle East. It is Tunisia. There you go.
There you go. Very good. That was a pretty hard one. All right, here's an easy one. How old is Yoda when he died? Charles.
Is it 803?
Ooh. I'm gonna miss.
Greg.
900.
Yes, very good. 900. All right, so we don't want to do that one. That one's stupid. The amount that Alec Guinness or Obi-Wan Kenobi made after negotiate. That's a dumb one too. We don't want to do that.
Sir,
all right.
Alec Guinness, sir.
How many action figures were sold from the first trilogy, 90 or 78 to 86?
200,000.
4 million times 3. 12 million.
I'm gonna say 120 million.
All right. Well, JJ's the closest. It's 250 million.
Yeah, it's the bottom drawer.
Wow. All right. Here's a good one. Who is the most valuable action figure of all time?
Oh,
Greg.
It is the Boba Fett with working rocket launcher, the one that actually shoots.
Yep, that was a mail order figure.
Yes.
You could only get it if you mailed off for it, and they only had like a couple hundred that actually made it out of the factory. Matter of fact, I believe Boba Fett is the top 2 because there's a Boba Fett where they have like a crescent moon shape on the fist of his glove rather than a half moon shape. That was a production error that a couple hundred got made.
There's also a Jawa with a special cape. And if you have one where the cape is made of a certain material, it's super rare, so it's super expensive.
All right. Next question. What other TV show did Bosk's yellow outfit come from?
Oh, I know this one.
Greg.
That's a Doctor Who.
Yep. Do you know which episode?
No, I don't watch Doctor Who.
One of the British ones.
One of the British ones, yes. All right. No.
All right, well, that's not fun. I don't know it either. It doesn't tell me in this thing.
Ooh, can I ask one?
Sure.
Can you name which Cheers character was in Star Wars and what movie he was in?
Oh, I know this. I know this. I know this. I know this.
Oh no! Try to keep it not on the table.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know.
Greg?
All right, so it's Norm's friend, who I think is named Cliff.
Yes.
And for the life of me, I cannot remember what movie he's in. Oh no, it's Empire Strikes Back. He's the guy. He's the guy who's talking to Solo in Empire Strikes Back.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, that wasn't my guess.
Character in Empire Strikes Back. Yep.
All right. Who was a famous actor that auditioned for the role of Emperor Palpatine but did not get it?
Oh, that was Stephen Hawking.
No.
Stephen King, you mean?
No.
Hello, Lord Vader.
He was in a movie
Bring
called
young Skywalker to
Gandhi.
me. Gandhi?
Yep.
Sir Ben Kingsley.
There you go.
Yeah, technically, who said Gandhi then? Because whoever said Gandhi was right, because Ben Kingsley played Gandhi.
I said Gandhi.
He said Gandhi.
I was giving the hint because I realized it was probably very silly.
Nobody's gonna know that. Said you after Goron facts.
All right. Who killed these 4 Jedi Masters? Surisu Ten, Mace Windu, Kit Fisto, and Aegon Kohler.
Emperor Palpatine?
Emperor Palpatine. Yeah.
I actually technically he was an emperor. It was Arsidious, but how many languages is C-3PO fluent in?
6 million forms of communication.
Thought it was 5 million.
60.
Oh.
Exactly 60. He knows 60 languages.
60 million. No, 60 million.
He's out of RAM. We need to upgrade.
He's using Windows.
Oh, is there any other good ones in here? Well, everybody will know that one. That one's silly. What is the name of the Death Star's original commander?
Don't touch anything. Just go wash your hands.
Director Krennic.
Oh, no.
Ooh,
Are we-
throwback.
This is interesting.
You got silly.
I'm gonna go with
Go wash your hands, please.
Jared.
Close. Nope. Charles, you got a guess?
Oh, is it? Okay.
No. It's
Is it
Empire.
Maki?
Nobody cares about the Empire.
Oh, all right, Greg, you get one more guess or no?
Is it Mahdi?
It's Moth. Grand Moff Tarkin. Was the
Oh,
official
okay.
first commander.
I thought that was too
gonna say
easy.
Tarkin, but I was like, that's
I thought it was
way
too easy. Yeah. Oh
I
god.
thought it was the guy that got choked in the boardroom during the Zoom
Yeah.
call.
I think we should give that to JJ because Krennic is obviously right, and that question was clearly written before Rogue One.
Yes, you are correct. Tobias Beckett was in Cheers as well.
Ah, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right, so last question that we'll go through is who was the Jedi Master that created the clones?
Okay.
Sifo Dyas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sifo Dyas, yeah.
Jedi
All
Master
right.
Psycho Dyas.
I forgot he was the only Hispanic Jedi. Yeah.
All right.
Man.
Well,
Tough
thank you all
break
for
for you guys.
participating.
I think that would be Saifu Diaz.
All right. So thank you for participating. That was our official first
Well,
trivia. I don't think we've ever
By
done
the by.
trivia before, have we?
No, we stole that.
No.
We had to incorporate that in tonight's episode because of the buyout by Nickel City X-Wing.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Greg
Exactly.
messaged me and said
It was
we didn't get a
required
choice.
in the podcast bylaws.
All right. So to begin with, the first thing that I want to do is we want to go through what churns my dials.
Is this like
So tonight for what churns my dials, and yes, we call it X-Wing base Greg and not what churns my gears, so I don't get sued by Family Guy.
yes, they watched this.
I hope they do. Everybody should be watching this. So what churns my dials tonight is Trajectory Simulator. Now, I normally wouldn't complain too much about Trajectory Simulator in the old format, right? Old format, no, but we have 2.5 rules, and on our show we've been pretty decent about trying to be more constructive in our criticism. But I will say Trajectory Simulator is the one effing card that they forgot to ban. And I don't give a shit if they want to ban it just in standard and leave it for extended garbage play. That's fine with me. The issue I have with it is with all the current objectives and the way the boards are moving, essentially you can now have B-Wings throw bombs. And I believe
So hang on,
there's
before
only
we get too
2 other
far-
ships that can do that now. In this mode.
For the newer listeners, what is Trajectory Simulator exactly? What does it say?
Okay, all right. You want me to read Trajectory Simulator? Do I have to bring it up on screen?
Yeah,
too?
just for the new guys who may have not seen it. So,
Does Greg want?
So Trajectory Simulator. What is that?
It's a raspberry Kit Kat, guys. It's fucking great.
what?
Okay.
So Trajectory
Where did you
Simulator
get that?
is when you would drop a bomb or I'm sorry, when you would drop a device, you may instead choose to launch said device using the 5 straightforward template.
Yep. So with that being said, originally that was not as big of a deal, right? There was only a few ships.
I
that could take it.
disagree. I disagree. It's
Okay.
been a pain in the ass since 1.0.
I feel it has become worse since going to the new rules and new objectives. So my beef with it is the fact that you can now throw bombs, and typically you're going to get 2 of them. So you can slow roll with your B-Wings, throw 2 bombs in the center, and start denying points and ranges while the rest of your ships are able to take them. And
Look,
no damage has to happen to your ships.
I hate to cause JJ PTSD and Greg PTSD, but in 1.0 you could pair Trajectory Simulator with the bomblet generator, which was endless bombs. It was every turn you could drop a bomb. There was no, spend a shield to do it. It just happened. Every turn you just crapped out a bomb or you launched it 5 forward. And unfortunately, I think, what was it? Minefield. The one that allows you to drop all of your bombs at the
mapping
beginning
stuff.
of the
Yeah, that's right.
that was 100 times worse than Trajectory Simulator.
So you just used to be able to dump all your bombs
Captain
at
N
once.
was so bad.
There was
I never
Yes.
I
played,
think it was Rebel Nim got a bonus defense die if the shot was obstructed by a bomb, and so you could put cluster bombs down, and if you had the minefield mapper, you could create a bubble of cluster mines around your ship and just fly a circle inside of them, so it was always an obstructed shot unless they gave the nut shot of flying through a cluster missile just to get rid of it.
And then
That's
add
stupid.
TLT.
Oh yeah, and then add TLT. Yeah, because they had turrets.
All right, so I'm glad we
to
don't have
quote,
any of that shit.
To quote Greg, people
Yeah.
talk about 1.0 the way military vets talk about Nom.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. I never played 1.0, but it's literally every time someone brings up 1.0, I start hearing Creedence Clearwater Revival in my. It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't the fortunate one. Just a helicopter flies across the screen.
Well, fair enough. So for me, again, like I said, for me, I think with a lot of the new rules, I think what it does is it ruins some of that feel, some of what they were trying to avoid. You know, like I could shoot you at range 0 now, but oh, God forbid, I'm going to do a 3 forward with a B-wing and next turn just throw bombs for 2 turns and let them sit there. Yep. Throw delayed fuses on, you can start denying space again, and no, thank you. I think personally, trajectory simulators should be banned. Anybody else? Anybody else want to rebut me, or is that
If you were to try to fix that particular
Do
upgrade,
you only think it because of B-wings right now? Is that the only reason?
Well, I
that
think
you
that's the
feel-
only ship that can take that, other than because they nerfed it out of Separatists. Because
They
Separatists,
took
I
it
used
out
to
of
use.
First Order bombers too. They don't have any sensor slots anymore.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, so I think that if you don't want to ban Trajectory Simulator, then the easy thing to do is if the B-wing takes the payload slot, they can't have a sensor slot, or vice versa. Like put that on the foils config and make either a bomber config or an attack config for the B-wing. Attack config can take the foils, get the double tap. Bomber config gets a bomber slot, and you can do your thing. You can have those cost points so that a B-wing that is taking the bomber config can't double tap, can't do the barrel roll target lock shenanigans. You can work with it, but I know they won't. So go ahead and just ban Trajectory Simulator.
Yeah, I guess if they did create a new config that would allow for some of that, I think that would be. I could see that being a benefit over the other one, because that would give your B-wing a little bit more versatility. Do you change the loadout points then, Greg? I mean, is that what you do if you take that config? Loadout points change?
Yeah, my problem is.
Or what about
right now a B-wing can do it all. Like you can fit all of it on Braylon. You can fit all of it on 10. You can fit all of it on Gina. They can do everything right now.
What about making it a charge base?
What do you mean?
So
the
Trajectory Simulator has one charge. You could use it one time to throw a bomb.
Games last 5 rounds. It's not. That doesn't sway me, like, because you can use it 20% of the game already. The way I've seen games go right now is games are basically over by turn 3. They're decided. Like that one charge is all you're ever going to need. So either have the B-wing be solely set up to bomb, or give it its other B-wing things.
So here's a comparison in terms of like a power level. Do you think that's on the same level, Genius for Scum? That's the the droid that lets you drop a bomb after you fully execute it, or after you execute a maneuver for Scum, as long as you have the astromech and of course a bomb slot that Y-Wings can equip. Is it on the same power level as that, and would we need to adjust that particular droid as well?
No, no, I disagree with that. No, because that is not launching something 5 feet in the air. Like, it's not throwing it. Like, it's not going, oh, poof, here you go. It's the same way as just like the bombers and FO can, do their boost shenanigans before they drop a bomb. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of BS, but once you learn how to play around it, it's not that hard to get away from. But being able to launch a bomb and just sit there
guarantees you bomb yourself. Like, you're paying a pretty high price to get the bomb off on Genius, because you can't, if you execute a maneuver and then who can take Genius? Y-Wings? You execute a maneuver, drop a bomb. There's nothing that Y-Wing can do to not take that bomb.
Auto thrusters, I thought. Hang on.
For a
auto
Y-Wing?
thrusters. What are
Can you
you
put
talking
skilled
about?
bombardier on
The
the
Y-Wing with auto thrusters?
Or
if they do that, I quit the game.
Afterburners, I mean, sorry.
It's like, we don't have auto thrusters, bro. Like,
Oh no, never mind. They took away their mod slot. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can you hold on? Can you put skilled bombardier on a Y-Wing?
Not anymore.
Oh well, never mind then.
Even
that
then,
would allow you to drop it at 2.
2 back is still in range 1.
Actually, I retract my statement. Patrick on Scum Y-Wing has the mod slot and the astromech slot, so you can do Genius, drop a bomb, and then Afterburners if you do the 3 bank or the 3 straight.
all right. Well, thanks, JJ, for giving everybody that, that new bullshit. We're fucked now. Now we're going to see that at Adepticon.
Yeah, so many people have been using Scum lately, so.
Yeah, we need some more Scumless.
25% of this panel uses Scum every time.
Okay,
Fair
so let's bring it into perspective, though, right? Because yes, obviously the B-Wings are currently probably the only ship that can do that trajectory simulator bomb thing. There's still 1 agility, right? And the majority of the swarm list for the other factions right now are going to be 2 to 3 agility for the most part. Especially when you look at like the 7A wing list for the rebels. You got the TIE fighter swarm for the Empire, as well as for Scum that can do that, or the M3A swarm. You're having a hard time hitting those particular ships with 3 agility dice, especially if there's that many of them. And you can, even with the B-Wings fully loaded out, you're still shooting at only 1 ship, right? And you're investing points on that, because at the most you can really, fit out a list that has that kind of power is either with 2 B-Wings, and then that's probably like a 6 ship list, or 5 if you want to get like better pilots. In return, they're getting shot at from multiple ships that have 2 die attacks. Yes, of course, they're 2 die attacks, but they're coming on range 1. That's still 3 dice that are coming into those particular ships, and they can be burned down fairly quickly in exchange for maybe 1 shield that they lose, or if they go to 1 hole. I mean,
So
JJ
really
was the person that argued why TLT wasn't overpowered in 1.0. That's what JJ's doing right now.
So hold on, JJ. Let's stop right there real quick. So I agree with you if that was the case, but if I could throw it at a range 5, do a 1 forward, do it a second time, and deny you the fact that you cannot get certain types of objective points, right? That's some of what the difference is. And I could take it on 4 ships or three ships. I don't know if I could get it on all 4 or not. I'd have to double check that. I know I could get it on 3 though.
So as a person who's actually been like trying to like make that combo work, the most you can get if you're really trying to spam that is 3 ships, which would be either Gina, Hera, Braylon, and 10, and then you have room for just 1 more ship, and that's about it. So you either go all into that and you sacrifice yourself on positioning for other objectives, because you're sending either 1 B-Wing versus 2 to 3 ships inside the middle, or you're focusing all your firepower in the middle and you lose all your objectives on the outside.
Now, I think the difference, though, you're right and wrong, though. Like, you can still spread them out. If you got 3 of them, you can spread them out, put them in the 3 points on the board. I think the question becomes, JJ, right, is it going to be overpowered? Is it something that can be overcome? If it's something that can be overcome, sure, great. then let them stand. As of right now, in this and how we know how to fly and how the majority of people have to fly, they are very hard to overcome. Also, and this is where I would argue the difference becomes is they create a larger negative play experience than they had before. And I think that's the bigger. So
That's fair.
I'm going to put my AMG hat on, which I don't have because they don't sponsor our show because they don't like us. But I'm going to say is, like that's the thing is if you put your AMG hat on and you listen to all the fucking all the interviews and you say, "Hey, we have all these interviews where they're talking about negative play experience, they're talking about engagement. B-wings with the sensor and trajectory simulator are violating two of those tenets. One is the negative play experience. The second one is the engagement. They don't have to engage. They literally can say, yeah, come at me. Great. I'm just going to throw a bomb and it's going to hit you, At least they can't throw mines because there was a certain individual that tried to throw mines in one of the GSP tournaments. Now, I will say I made top cut, though. So I just want to point that out. I made top cut even without being able to throw my proxy mines.
You made top cut without using an illegal tactic?
Yes. So, it didn't happen ever. The first time I tried to do this, somebody called me out. Anyway, but I did not know that didn't work like that. That's what happens when you're too new. Anyway, so JJ, that's the problem. That's the bigger problem I have is that it violates what AMG is trying to do. A and B, it creates a different experience that is a lot harder to overcome. Like there's some weird shit about like Han being able to shoot through a rock, land on a rock that I hated when Charles introduced it to me. But once I knew what the fuck it was, once I learned what it was and how it worked, like it was kind of an easier thing to avoid. Like Charles had to do certain moves to put himself in that position, and then in the long run, if I knew how to avoid it, it created a way for me to not have to deal with engagement in these scenarios. And this is what we're going to get into next: is statistics. Right? Greg has brought statistics, and we have statistics from an in-person tournament that happened this weekend, and the statistics are showing with 5 rounds. 2 rounds of denying your opponent that space is pretty bad. It creates a worse play experience because of that. Now, maybe it'll extend the game 7 rounds. Maybe that's what you're doing. Maybe you're telling me we can go 7 rounds now. But anyway. All right. So anybody have anything else before we move on to points? No? All right. So Greg has graciously been recording his information from all the games he's been streaming. And then we also had an in-person Texas tournament this weekend called the Apollo. I think it was the Apollo tournament. I don't know where the Apollo is. I thought that was in New York, but either which way.
That's showtime at the Apollo, you whack job.
I like those comedy scenes. Greg, when the fuck are you getting into the Apollo? How about that? There you go. I'll fly to New York when Greg gets into the Apollo. But Greg has been very gracious and been recording some of the statistics. So, Greg, do you want to go through your statistics? Do you want us to bring them up on screen? How do you want to go about doing that?
I mean, it's your show. Well, technically, it's my show, but
it's your show now.
I'm letting you run your show. So you do feel like Beth. I'm happy to go through them if you want.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and start here, and I'll bring them up on screen. Why don't I do that?
So I've got 18 games worth of data right now, 6 in the assault objective, 6 in salvage, and 6 in scramble. Not recording data for chance encounter because that's just a dogfight. It's not even, I think the objective in that one's fine. You don't need to do anything in that one. It's a regular dogfight. Yay. Right now, it is not looking good for the people who said this is a return to the core of X-Wing. It's only 18 games. Should stress that. But the data would seem to indicate that objectives have dominated the style of play. So if we start with Assault, we got 6 games of that. The average rounds in a game of Assault, and Assault is the one where you get objective points by being at range 1 of the objective. It's arguably the easiest of the objective scenarios to capture points because you just have to be in range where you accidentally capture points half the time if you need to. I feel like navigating to range 1 of a objective is not exactly the hardest part of the game. The game's averaging 4.8 rounds in our 6 games. That means a majority of the games are ending in turn 5, basically, with a lot of games ending in turn 4 and almost no games ending after it. The average length of the game is about 57 minutes, 40 seconds, so 58 minutes if you want to round up, which means that the average turn in this game is going 11 minutes and 55 seconds, almost 12 minutes a turn, that is a long time.
Just
It's like they're
curious
all playing
if I
Separatists.
can, in reference to this, how much of that did you actually track? How much of that is spent with points calculation and things like that for objectives, or is that not where a lot of the time is being taken up?
I mean, this is just taken from the game by dividing how many turns we got versus how long it took. So I can't tell you.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, no, just curious. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If that's a
Yeah, I'm not
factor.
gonna ask players to like, all right, so in turn 3, how much of your time was spent on? There's just that would be so subjective that it wouldn't. I don't think it would help any.
As a person who's been like helping track this, I could tell you that a lot of the time spent on the rounds is definitely setting up those dials, because you do have larger ship counts, you know, especially with the 5 through 7 ship count squads. It takes a lot more time for you to set those dials, and on top of that, when you're tracking points for like how many ships were destroyed at the end, to like add on to your objective points and stuff, there's a lot of math and counting that goes on towards the end of those rounds as well. So there's a lot of time now being spent more in the planning phase, and then just the end phase, just making sure all the points are counted up. So
Also, I don't know about you guys.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But I don't know about you guys, but like when in the 2.0 days, I'm kind of like, while the engagement's happening, that's not a lot of brain power going on there. I'm kind of planning my moves out. But since we went to road, I can't plan my moves out because I don't know who's going first. So all that time where I'm kind of like pre-planning or like developing a strategy, all that pre-planning's gone because you can't plan 2-3 turns ahead anymore, because there's, you don't know what the situation is going to be with road. So all that time is now moving into each individual turn.
So I have another question, Greg, and I apologize. I'm the math nerd of the group. Do you have baseline data to compare this to? So like comparatively speaking, before the points change and the objectives, and that what the average game was in standard 2.0 and when it was just dogfights, like how many turns we were getting per, so that we have the comparison for the switch between 2.0 and 2.5, or is that not data we have access to right now?
I mean, I could easily get my own data from my YouTube channel and just go back and watch every game and figure out how many turns and stuff we did.
Sure.
But we know from like tournaments and stuff that games were averaging between 10 and 12 turns a game.
Sure. Just from a pure statistical standpoint,
No,
having
the
baseline comparatively speaking to the changes does help.
I'm kind of trusting other people on like 2.0 stuff.
Sure. And you're fine. I to avoid any biases, having the baseline data does help. So
yeah. So in Assault, the winner is averaging 19.8 points in my games. That means people are, since it's not over 20, that means people are realizing they've lost the game and quitting, basically conceding the game a little early. That's what if to get an average under 20, it means that someone probably quit the game. I mean, I actually have each individual game. I can probably see where it happened as well. Let me refresh this. Did someone delete my fucking thing?
No.
Oh, I hid them.
That was Greg that deleted that.
They're hidden, Greg. You just gotta unhide them.
Okay. So, Assault points. Yeah, okay. So, there was a game. Actually, this is actually between me and Tanner, where it was the final score was like 16-10, and there's probably just no way for you to come back at that point, and you're just like, boom, might as well stay. All right, you can re-hide if you want. Sorry. And so the winner is averaging 10.5 objective points with 9.3 ship points. The loser is averaging 11 points with 7.8 of those being objective and 3.2 of those being ship, which to me is the problem here, but we'll get in that in a minute. Salvage, again, 6 games, average rounds 5.7, average time 59 minutes 40 seconds. That's 10 minutes 31 seconds a turn. The winner is averaging 20.8 points with 12.2 of those points being from objectives, 8.7 being from ships. The loser averaging 13.8 points with 10.7 being objectives and 3.2 being ships. Then Scramble, 6 games, 5.7 average rounds, again, very similar. 60 minutes, 40 seconds, an average turn of 10 minutes, 42 seconds. Winner averaging 22.5 points, with 13.5 of those being objective, 9 being ship, 12.5 for the loser, with 10.3 and 2.2 for objective and ship, respectively. Meaning we've got a total of 18 games, averaging 5.4 rounds, with just under 60 minutes as the average time, 11 minutes, 3 seconds a turn. Winner averaging 21.1 points, with 12.1 of those being objectives, 9 being ships. Loser averaging 12.4 points, with 9.6 of those being objective and only 2.8 being ships. Meaning the total in every game is an average objective points of 21.7 and an average ship points of 11.8, which is basically 2/3 of the points being objective based points, which I think we all agree is not
ideal.
I want to drag my negativity to like other places, but not what you would want from a game about combat.
Yeah. So all right. So I want to stop real quick because we could look at the high level. I don't know what's happening, but we could look at the high level real quick and then kind of talk through some of this. So some of my, so I understand, Greg, your dislike of some of this, and my big thing is statistics, and right, Charles, we don't have that. X-Wing has never been very good at tracking this.
No, and I agree. And again, I'm not trying to throw a wrench into anything, right?
No.
But when we look at just a base set of information, it becomes anecdotal if we don't have a comparable baseline.
No, you're 100% right, and that's where there should be some due diligence to kind of go back and look at it. I think the difference, though, is if we go back and compare, so Greg made a statement saying, hey, this feels a little less than ideal. We're spending more time on objectives than we are spending on killing ships. They did tell us that that's not what was really going to happen, that we're still going to want to kill ships to make sure we win, right? So, if we take them at face value and we say, okay, well, we could go back and compare it, and I think that would be a valid thing. I don't think AMG is going to listen anymore, though. I think the difference is we can start presenting this type of statistics to AMG and say, hey, here's these type of scenarios. As you go through and develop new scenarios, or as you go through and tweak some of these. Because I think the interesting thing, and this is where that TTT needs to look, if they're willing to increase their statistical output to record some of this stuff, we should be very on board with it, right? Your average churn is going to be very hard to deal with. So I'm okay with not having that being anything but an average, right? But I think the big thing is saying, okay, where are the points coming from? How are we seeing the points so we can develop and then looking at the ship list archetypes, right? And in a second, I do have List Fortress because List Fortress has started to change, and we can look at archetypes for it. Because the question becomes is why are we getting more objective points versus more ship count points, right? And what does it take, to competitively take on some of this data? Now, I'm going to recap real quick, and then we're going to go into the Texas one, and then we can kind of come back and talk about statistics as a whole all over. So this weekend in Texas, an in-person event, they recorded a few of the statistics. The first one was their average round came out to 7.9. Now, in fairness, I believe they only played chance encounter. That was the only scenario that they played.
See, to me, that then anything they come up with is irrelevant because that is a dogfight. Like chance encounter is not like it's an objective-based game, sure, but it's a completely different objective than all the other ones. Like there's a max 1 objective point per turn, where every other scenario has a max of 5, and like it's just a dog. Like I have no issues with chance encounter because it's a dog.
No, and I agree. I think that negates the. I appreciate that they took statistics, but if we're going to look at 2.5 as a whole and we're viewing it from a statistical standpoint, we can't limit it to one scenario. You have to play it the way it was intended. If you're limiting it to one scenario, that's 2.0.
All right, so let me.
The chance encounter is just 2.0 with an added little square in the center of the map. Other than that, and I've done chance encounter where the entire game, everybody is within range 2 of that objective, so it didn't matter for squat anyway. There's no variance there. There's no difference between 2.0 and chance encounter. So I agree with Greg that negates a lot of the data they took.
So I'm going to disagree with you because it would still be data, right? And I would say that, okay, so if we take Greg's 3 scenarios and then you can compare each one to chance encounter, which he didn't record, you now have a different analysis, right?
Yeah, but to
I see
so kinda,
what he's saying. I see what he's saying.
Yeah.
So are you saying we're adding this to Greg's data point?
You could kind of use chance encounter as the baseline to compare these objectives to.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I would do that because it's the closest to 2.0 data that we have.
Yeah, and what I would say though is like for chance encounter, when it comes to balancing ships and loadout points, I think that right there is probably like the baseline there, because at that point you're not worrying as much about controlling the objectives because everybody's naturally going to gravitate towards the center of the board, just because the amount of ships that you can fit in a list that is becoming more and more common in with the new standard points. That data does serve that purpose to see what is the most common trends and what ships are being left out because of their points and their loadout values. That data is important for that, but yeah.
But because think of it this way, we don't have 2.0 data with the new point system and new loadout values. We don't have any of that. That does not exist.
No, you're correct. You're correct. We would have to figure out some sort of an algorithm for points transference.
Yes, and that's a discussion we can have as well, because I feel that when we first started this discussion 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, that was the point. That was my big thing, is like, I want to compare what is my ship list worth. Like there's a Rebel list or a Republic list that's worth 350 points. I don't remember, but I think they become somewhat irrelevant once you start getting into these different scenario types. I don't think the old points translate to the new points in an affirmative enough way, right? And so the closing chance encounter, or whatever the hell they call it, is literally the closest thing that we're ever going to have to a dogfight per se. Though I would argue that I think it's the assault. Is the assault the one where you have to have ships by the objective, Greg?
Yes.
Okay, I would argue assault is kind of secondary-ish to that all-out dogfight. And if you look at your statistics, that has the highest number of ship points killing out of all three of them.
Yeah, it is of the scenarios. It's the most balanced right now between ship and objective. But I will also note that objective is still higher. It
is. Yep. And I think that's, if AMG is going to go for that, right? We could argue all day long whether we like that or not. I think it becomes irrelevant at this point what we like. I'm trying to base
it on taking what they said in good faith, as in they were not lying to me. They are like competent people who are doing this because they actually believe in the goal they are telling me. because if you just start being like, well, they fucking lied to me, then there's no like, okay, you can't like that. So I just choose to believe that they are, when they said that they want it to be a dogfighting game, they want to get back to its roots, which is such a weird thing to say, but whatever. I choose to take that at face value and take that as them being honest with us. And that is how I am filtering this data with whether or not they are achieving their stated goals.
Yep. No, and I
And I
agree
will
with you.
say that using that as a basis as well, Greg, the games that I have played where I've done like a chance encounter scenario, they have been a lot more dice throwing because everybody wants to keep their ships within range 2 of that center marker to prevent from giving up free points by avoiding the contact. So it does help push the game to be more fighting, but it's only in that chance scenario. I to be fair, I'm a relatively limited data point here because I've only played a couple of games. I played one against JJ where we did, where he was pulling the objectives and he flew an A-wing list, which completely decimated me. I played one against John where he was flying interceptors, and I flew 3 ships that had 180 arcs, and I lost the game on the back end of things on the front end because he was able to take more objectives. But as I started picking off ships and I started regaining points, because 3 points per ship versus 1 per objective, I really started to overtake the field, and it does bend it back on a long enough timeline. You've got to be quick about killing the ships because, like you've said, your average turns are between 4 and 5 rounds. So if you're not quick on the draw as far as like dropping ships down, it's hard. And I had mentioned this a couple weeks ago, talking to some friends that are hardcore Legion players, and the way that Legion has kind of morphed. Nobody wants to play Luke. Nobody wants to play Vader or Obi-Wan or Boba Fett or the big name characters, because in an objective scenario, more bodies on the field equals a more successful team. It's not about Luke in the X-Wing. It's about 6 A-Wings. Now, yes, you can do some named A-Wings, but on the grand scheme of things, if you were to ask someone that's not a hardcore Star Wars fan like JJ, who any of the A-Wing pilots are, no one's going to know. But if I ask someone who Luke Skywalker is, oh, that's the main Jedi guy. They, at least the name recognition is there. But no one wants to put those on the field because they take up so many points out of your 20 that it's better to have 3 generic pilots in the same, point deficit that one named pilot would take when you're taking one of the big name recognizable characters. And that's exactly what's happened in Legion. Is it's better to have an entire squad of generic people with generic commanders and not bring any of the big guns, because when you draw the random scenarios where you have to control points, more bodies on the field equals more activations equals more time. And I had said that I was worried that we were going to see X-Wing very quickly nosedive into a generic swarm meta. And realistically, if you look at, and I don't know your data because it's not broken down by the list archetype, I would venture to say that most of these are going to be 5+ ship lists to allow them to control more points more efficiently. Am I accurate in that?
If I'm trying to win, I take any 2 X-Wings over 1 Luke. Like, I don't care what their names are. I don't care what their abilities are. You need
more bodies on the field
just
equals more success.
And I think that's just common sense to everybody for how these objectives work. The more ships you have, if there's 5 objectives on the field, ideally you need at least 5 ships. Like,
yes, agreed.
If you have 4 ships, then you're absolutely, even if everything goes right, leaving 1 objective unaccounted for. So
correct.
Like, there's just no way to get around the sense of I need 5 ships at the least.
So all right, so let's shift a slight little bit. And so I know everybody was disparaged by the chance encounter data, but they're averaging 8 rounds almost, right? They hit time 80% of the time. Their average points were 12.49, so basically 13 points. And again, that doesn't match Greg's data because their issue with that is they took win and loser points and averaged them out, and that's in my opinion that's an incorrect way to look at it. But the difference
that's
though,
like that's in a game. So if someone scored 20 and someone scored 0, they'd report that as 10.
Yeah. So and I get that, and that's why I have an issue with that data set. That specific data point is really that one doesn't. I can't match it with yours. But they did say on average the total wins that hit 20 or more was 41% of games. So you are hitting with yours 89%. So your games are 89% right now, hitting the 20 or more, whereas in person that chance encounter is hitting 41% of 20 or more. So it goes back to the dogfighting saying, okay, objectives are still king. They're still taking more points, no matter which way you look at it. And that. Now, what I want to say, and this is where we have to talk about X-Wing etiquette, right? And this is going to probably piss a lot of people off. I'm a swarm player. When you play me, I have 7 to 8 dials I have to set every churn for the first 3 churns in 2.0 until you start picking off my droids. I could tell you how many times people will bitch at me and say, you've taken more than 3 minutes to set your dials. Can you please hurry it up so we can go on? Right? That's a thing. People say that to people like me. And that's fine. It's fair, right? Because when you got 3 dials to set and I've got, 8, you're going to get fucking annoyed that I'm sitting here. So I think this was an unintended consequence of what AMG was trying to do by getting people to carry more. I think their goal is why don't you take cooler ships with better upgrades and cooler things? And people are saying, well, I just give a fuck about winning. I don't actually care about who I'm flying. Like, my son is the exact opposite. My son flies Vader and Darth Maul, and that's nothing else. He does not care. He thinks everything else is stupid. He doesn't want to play to win that aspect. He only wants Darth Maul to win. That's all he cares. Which, once they hit Scum, he's going to get that. Because that's, I'm going to build him a list that he's going to like. But when we look at that, I think one of the biggest issues that I see out of this is they need to look at how do we institute a time limit for dial setting, right? I think that changes some of this dynamic to some extent because it will discourage people from taking 7 to 8 ship lists or 6 ship lists or whatever Greg's average is. Right? We're going to see a discouragement for that because the majority of people do not play swarms. You have Scum players that play swarms. You have TIE Fighter players that play FO and Empire swarms, and then you have Separatist players that play swarms. Other than that, most people have been very content playing ship counts that just decimate on the field over body count. And Separatists, like, in a long time, have not been king of the meta, right? Like, 8 ships have not been king of the meta in a long time. Daniel Lynn took something, right? I had a little bit of success, but really the success has been limited, and a lot of people do not care for that style of play. So if we look at what we need to change or things that this data should explain to the developers that, hey, when you do this type and you allow everybody to take swarms, you reduce churn count overall. Now, how do we fix that, right? Is that something where we just up the points? Am I completely in left field? Have you guys ever
heard of the concept of jury nullification?
Is that where you tell the jury that you're an atheist and they don't put you on the jury because you don't believe in God? Because I've done that.
No, I wish that was. So jury nullification is when you said it's an unintended consequence. Jury nullification is actually the consequence of 2 laws. That is pretty unintended. The first law is double jeopardy. You can't be tried twice for the same crime. The second law is that a jury cannot be tried for their verdict. Like, you cannot punish a jury for their verdict. So theoretically, again, and I want to point out to any legal authorities watching this, I'm not advocating this. I'm just saying it is something that could happen.
Oh my God.
If you believe someone is guilty, but you don't think it should be a crime, the jury can come back not guilty. And that person, even if they are guilty, The jury said they're not guilty. They can't be tried again, and you can't punish the jury for that. That's a jury nullification. Which is, I kind of feel like what's happening here is AMG has created this convoluted scenario, and I don't mean scenario as in the game, I just mean like the entire situation, this convoluted situation that is now bearing out these consequences. And part of me wants to be real snarky and say that like sufficient player testing would have revealed a lot of these issues up front, and I have a hard time believing that this was tested in any kind of thorough manner, because I just don't believe that they would release this like this if it was tested and kept track of properly. That's just me. That's my own thought. You know, AMG, come at me, not anyone else. I just think I don't like the idea of like a chess timer on turns. It's just another thing. And we've already added so much already. I think that's another reason turns are taking so long. Is because I have about 1,000 upgrade cards on each ship.
Yes.
And I'm reading them each turn, being like, which of these charges am I flipping here? Could do this, that, or the other thing, you know?
So the question then, Greg, is okay. So if you're against a chess timer, which I will advocate actually for it. I am that chess guy that will lose every time, but will play with a chess timer. That's me. So the question I have then is so if you're anti that piece of it, right? You're anti that chess timer. You're anti all of these different pieces. If we have that, we have to be able to figure out a way to correct that course, right? Like it has to be correct. And so I want to avoid the discussion of whether the playtesters did what they did and whether they took statistical data or not in the same manner, because I think we all know that a board game company is not usually in the business of understanding that, because they're not under those constraints. They're not like Magic the Gathering may be, right? They probably have very extensive testing in Magic the Gathering per se, right? Because there's thousands of dollars online for each of those tournaments. In X-Wing, there's I get some Baby Yoda tokens and I get some templates. I got some templates last tournament I went to.
Don't you dare disrespect the Baby Yoda tokens. I will come to wherever you are, knock on your door, say pizza, and you'll be like, I didn't order a pizza. I kick in the door, and I'm like, you apologize to Baby Yoda.
Look, $6.7 billion in sales, okay?
All right. So, but okay.
Star Wars in general, but not X-Wing.
Yeah, you're killing me. So I understand like the disgust and the understanding of how they didn't use data, right? Because I work in logistics, I work in shipping. Now I work for a healthcare company. We do things that this company does not do, right? So that's fine. We're here now, though. We're stuck here. This is where we're at. Are you drinking Yahoo? Is that what you're drinking?
Diet Snapple, baby.
Okay,
What else?
all right.
No,
all right. Well, I
Snapple.
just want to make sure, because
He's
like I
from
thought for
Snapple
some
country.
That's like
the
fucking reason you were
official
drinking
drink
Yahoo. Yahoo. How do you say that?
Yoo-hoo?
Yoo-hoo. There you go.
Yahoo is a search engine.
No. Anyway, all right. Sorry, I'm derailing my own show or Greg's show for personal gain. But okay, but we go back to it because again, we're stuck here. We have two options. You could quit the fucking game. I guess you could go back and play old rules, or we can accept the new rules and then try to help AMG differentiate what they need to be. And I'm not saying our podcast is some defining thing, blah blah blah. I mean, our view count obviously shows that we're not some defining podcast like your Nickel City team is, right? But the idea is that our goal, and a lot of the goals need to be, is how do we influence or how do we change it? Because I'm telling you that they are watching to some extent, and they are listening a lot more than they ever had before. Even if they aren't doing what we prefer them to do, because I do think that a lot of people are very upset by some of the shifts and the changes. I am pro objectives. I am not very happy that every faction is now a swarm faction, though. And I'm not happy that people that don't know how to fly swarms are spending longer than the swarm player is to set dials. So how do we fix that then? And is
Honestly,
that
I truly believe this. I truly believe that like, all right, I don't like objectives, but I have accepted that that's going to be part of the game. Like, I get that that's not changing. They're not going to be like, all right, we heard you, we're
Greg
rolling
doesn't
it back.
like them.
But I don't like it, but I think honestly, to fix a lot of this, I think you can fix almost every problem we've brought up right now by just changing how the objectives score. If you make the objectives less relevant, that means that 3-ship lists become a lot more competitive. That means that the games become more engagement based. It's more what people are used to. Turn times come down. It means ships destroyed goes up, objective points come down. That ratio gets a lot better. If you just make it so that instead of having up to 5 points a turn, you have 1 point a turn. Whatever. So, like chance engagement, we all agree, kind of a good baseline for 2.0 here. What if I hold 3 in salvage, you hold 1 in salvage? Instead of getting 2 points, or instead of getting 3 points, I get 1. I won the objectives that turn. I get 1 point. That's still meaningful in a 20-point game. That's 5% of your total, right? That's every turn. That's 5% of victory that I'm getting. 3 turns, that's 15% of victory I'm getting. That's a whole ship less that I have to do damage to. So it still makes objectives important, but you're just never going to get 20 turns of that. Like you physically can't win. Like in these scenarios right now, you literally could easily win a game and
never
decline to
destroy a
shoot the
ship.
whole time. Like you could just not even take a shot. With that 7 A-wing list, you could literally just do that. Spend all your tokens on defense, say, I'm not shooting, and just collect objectives. This way, if objectives gave out a max of 1 point a turn, they're still super relevant because even over a 5-turn game, and let's take chance encounter data, 8-round game, that's 8 points. That is almost half your points, but you still need to kill 12. And like my hope is I would want it in an objective game, realistically, like I want it to be 100% ship, 0% objective, but realistically in an objective game that it still has dogfighting as a priority, I want it like 75-25. Like I am begging them to make this change just at the chance at making it 60-40, you know?
What would you, just out of curiosity, Greg, speaking from a statistical standpoint, what would you think about doing like cornhole rules? So like
The difference between
yeah, the difference between like if you score 3
Yeah.
and I get 1, then you get 2 points, right? Because my 1 point cancels out yours. So it does encourage objectives, but we're scoring the difference between what was scored each round. So if I destroy a ship and get 5, but you've got 3 objectives, then I've only got 2. That stretches the game out more and it balances that gameplay between ship kill and objectives, because I can take away the importance of the objectives by killing one of your ships. If you have, say, Boba Fett on the field and you have 5 objectives and I kill Boba Fett, giving you 4 objectives and I get 10 points, I still only get 6 because you have 4 objectives, but you get nothing because my ship killing outweighs the amount that you're scoring for objectives.
You would never get to 20 points though if you're taking away the ship point kills.
Well,
Sure.
I think that's where the timer comes in play, right? Because once the amount of time for the game is left, whoever has the highest amount of points at that point then would win the game.
Right, but they don't want a timer.
But then you have
12-round
every
game.
game going to times.
Yeah, true. True.
That's against their like.
Right.
To me,
Fair enough. Just
like
spitballing different ideas because that's what we're doing.
I've definitely heard that idea. Like the differential point idea is out there, and I think it would improve things, but I don't think it goes away. Basically, I don't ever want to be like, I want to engage here, but I can't because if I don't, I lose. If I don't go for the objective, I lose versus fighting. That is such a feels bad for me. Whenever I'm in a game and I'm engaging, and then I look at the score and I'm like, I have to disengage right now because if I don't get objectives, I lose in 2 turns and like there's nothing I can do about it.
The only balance that I have seen, and this is in the game that I played John, where he was flying interceptors, because we were doing the ones where instead of just flying around the objective and acquiring it, you had to spend an action to pick up the objective, and then it went on your ship. Because he was
Salvage.
spending actions in order to pick up the objective, I could then take a shot at an unmodified interceptor, which still 3 green dice makes them pretty hardy. But against a, say a double tap Zam on Bosk, there's a pretty decent chance that I might murder one of your interceptors, which causes you to drop and then no longer score that objective. But the only reason that I was
But
willing,
only the only way you average that is if you're boxed up and not going for objectives yourself.
right?
Like,
Absolutely, 100%. Because I was flying a 3-ship list.
right. So the average hits on like 3 modified versus 3 unmodified is probably less than 1. So unless you're getting like 3 or more shots on that interceptor, 3v3, modified versus unmodified, you're not on average going to kill it. So the crux of the issue here is that the time to kill a ship versus the time to
take an objective
where the game
which
is
no
over
time.
is just so bad right now. Like, what's the time to kill a decimator? Average,
Oh,
like
dear
if you're
God.
doing
If you
You
get
wanna
all
know?
3 ships focused on a time,
3
you got,
rounds.
3 rounds to kill a decimator at minimum.
So you have
I
to
had that.
spend 60% of your game not chasing an objective and just trying to modify on a decimator to kill it. It's just not worth it. Like, why would I ever shoot a decimator? Right
Because
now?
in 3 rounds, so I have personal experience with this because I thought, oh, let me give Sloan a try. Let me take Rack and Sloan because fuck all, I can fit 5 TIE fighters in it, and one of them can be a that jingoist or however the hell you say that non-racist term that drives me nuts. I hate that word so much. I don't know why I don't like that word. But and I'll tell you what, like that jingoist is amazing, just as an FYI. Like for 3 points.
Oh
at
yeah,
a
it's
I4,
super good, but like I agree with you. It feels like I know it's not, but it feels like a slur.
it just does. But again, in combat, because I could be aggressive with it, you could still, it's in your front arc. It's not range 0, 1, blah 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 blah. It's just front arc. So you touch me, you lose your ship. I lost a decimator in 3 rounds. Now I didn't reinforce with the decimator, which is what you're supposed to do. So it probably could have lasted 5 rounds. And then I had the same thing. I took a
How many ships were shooting into you?
the guy had 5 ships.
And they were all going into the decimator?
Nope. 3 of them at a time. Now the scenario was the one where you just had to be by the objective, so that's the difference
So
where you'd have to take your action.
They're firing modified shots.
Some of
Even
them,
then,
and
though,
some of them not firing because of the fact that they would run into the other ship, So,
let me
but
bring up my probability calculator. So,
a decimator can be burned
attack.
down in 3 turns with 5 ships, and 3 of them each turn shooting at them. Because you don't get the range bonus unless you're at range 3 from them. And then the decimator does fuck all with Rack and Darth Vader and all these other things unless you're close by. So same way when I ran a Leighton, I had a Leighton, Grand Inquisitor, and TIE Fighter Swarm against a Decimator, Duchess, and somebody else. I could burn that Decimator down. If we played Chance Encounter, I got half points and then stopped caring about it. If we played any other scenario, I burned it down. And I played 3 games, two of the games against the Decimator, one of the games with the Decimator, and every time they've been burned down for the pure fact that they're 8 to 9 points. And they won me the game both times and lost me the game when I played the Decimator. They literally ignored objectives and went after the Decimator for 9 points.
Yeah, so I brought up the probability of 3 focused attacks coming at you with the decimator, and it would, like, on average, it should take about 4 turns to burn the decimator down. So you got a little unlucky. And I just feel like in 4 turns, if they're not getting objectives because they're going after the decimator, and you are getting objectives, say you get 2 a turn, losing the decimator, that's a negative 1 point swing, and you're telling me you didn't get any of their ships in the process as well. I just don't see how that is not going to, in the long run, law of large numbers. Obviously our individual experiences may vary. Not at least equal out.
Well, in a TIE fight, when you have Rack and a TIE fighter swarm, right? The difference is Jedi. There you go. The big difference is Jedi. That's one of the larger differences. So the ships I played against, hey, welcome everybody, 207 Squadron. But the difference is with when you're burning down the other ship, if you have more ships than them, you can get objectives and burn it down at the same time. Even unmodified 2 dice attacks will kill a decimator. It may take 5 rounds. In person, how about this? In person, my in-person games have never been like TTS. I've never only played 5 rounds ever in person. I've only played anywhere between 7 and 8, roughly. I had 1 6-round one, but that's because I took Duchess off the board round 1. Because Duchess came like a 3 hard in and took the objective, and then I had the Grand Inquisitor come 5 hard, boost instinctive aim concussion missiles with focus. So, there you go. Have a nice life, Duchess on 1 health, and go fuck yourself, basically. So, like that was the difference. That was a 6-round game because Duchess, like, you aren't going to get away from all my ships at that point. Like Duchess on 1 health. Yeah, bye-bye. You're just my 4 points at the end, or 5 points at the end of the game. So, anyway, so I think those are I think the discussion point, right, is those are interesting statistics, and I think what we're all coming to the conclusion of, we need to look at statistics more, right? I think we need to use these as a way to help AMG define where they want. And I'll put it this way: AMG's been into all of the chats, like for Gold Squadron and Hexiled, at least in terms of watching online gaming. So they're not playing the FFG card of we're going to ignore everything anymore. They're playing we're just going to ignore it, but we're going to appear and give information. So I think they're watching. I think what the X-Wing community would be smart to do, and I thought this is what some of those Euro players were working towards, is how do we capture some of this data and how do we bring it back so that we can understand it better? And it's not just like, as a competitive player, I want to understand the data so I know how to win. But I think as a game health piece, if we help AMG collect data, do we not feel that they will listen to per se to some extent and maybe look to change some of the things? Because I think, Greg, your point about, well, you can score 1 objective point and go back to ship killing, even if it's an interim till we can move to objective play differently, it's probably a bigger benefit to bring more players, back around to the game.
I still think it achieves what they want it to achieve, because you're still going to go for objectives, especially out the beginning, and especially that middle one as well, because that gives you the advantage, because you still want that 1 point, because over the course of a game, it adds up and it's going to help you win the game. Like, you can't tell me that 5 points isn't a significant amount of points in a 20-point match. It just is. It's a quarter of the points you need to win. I think any of us in a game we're trying to win would be like, yeah, give me a 25% head start. If AMG is listening, I am more than happy to share this data with you. Like, that's the whole point, is I want to be able to have this viewed so people can, see what's happening and make changes based on what's happening with qualified data. Like, all these games are on YouTube. I can prove these games happened. I can prove they're, not made up. Like, this is real data that we can really use to see if the goals in these changes are being met and or make the appropriate changes if you feel like they are not being met. So I
Fair
would
enough.
welcome anyone, literally anyone who wants to view the sheet can view the sheet. If you have a stream and you want to contribute to the sheet, you can contribute to the sheet. It just asks that you do it in good faith and put in real data from it. That's why I'm doing it on Google, because I can see who does everything. And then
Like that, except for you didn't know why I hid your columns. That was
I
it.
didn't know. Well, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, why is it all gone? I thought you maybe deleted it. I was like, you bastard.
No, I'm pretty good at spreadsheets. That's what I do for a living. So, but
Gross. But yeah, I would absolutely like opinions on the changes aside, and I still think that one document wording was atrocious and offensive. That paragraph, I do not know how it got there, but I'm still rooting for them to succeed. Like, I love this game. Like, I want this game to succeed. So if
because
writing down the end results helps, it's easy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You want the game to succeed because the alternative is that it fails and then nobody plays it and then we lose the game. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and then I lose the $10 a month I make. So I mean, there's a lot on the line.
With your newly acquired revenue stream of planning phase, that's like $11.50.
Right. And I lose my negative $20 a month.
yeah. Well, I heard that Greg's donating 45% of his income to Planning Phase Syndicate for making the stream better. Yeah. There you go.
Shipping. Hey. Let me tell you what, guys. If you plan on doing giveaways, factor shipping in before you do the giveaway stuff.
We learned that lesson. We learned that lesson second month when we spent more on shipping than we did on that producing the items. We promptly stopped until we could figure that out. Anyway, so we have 8 minutes left. I don't want to spend a million hours doing this. Does okay, Charles and JJ, either one of you have A, thoughts on this as we move towards the close? And B, do the two of you have any lists that you want to share or any excitement aspects that you were, because I know both of you were gone last week with personal things, and one of them I was very jealous of because it didn't come to Grand Rapids. So
sorry, I sent you video.
You did, and I got to listen to the shitty audio while I got to cry after our show. I cried a little bit because I didn't get to see Flogging Molly again, and I love Flogging Molly. So if you know me, I'm very big into ska and Irish music. I like death metal, but that's kind of like my original
and Irish music.
Yeah,
the crossroads upon which Flogging Molly intersects.
They do. Fuck off. They're Irish, and they're
his eyes they closed, and his last breath spoke. He had seen all to be seen.
All right. Can we tangent for a second? So, have you ever heard? There's an amazing band that opened for Flogging Molly, and this is God.
Oh, Nickelback.
No. JJ, if you know me, I don't. I've never once.
I know.
Listened to Nickelback. I hate Nickelback more than you probably hate your life.
Wow.
All right. That was pretty.
That got harsh.
That was pretty.
They're friends.
All right. But there's I fell in love with Irish and like British music like I don't know, like 15, 16 years ago. I used to be a big punk ska and I like death metal. That's my thing. Those are the three. And then I like electronic music as well, but usually it's only when I'm on drugs, and lately I've not been on drugs, so I don't like them as much.
Nerd.
Thank God. Well, some of us have kids. That's the problem.
You said your kid was 20.
I have a 20, a 19-year-old.
Dude, he has like 17
I have
kids.
a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. If you would like to buy one of them, I have them for sale.
and this is why he's on
that might be illegal.
TOS.
That might be illegal.
Twitch.
Am I touching you in the wrong places? All right.
Twitch.
Anyway,
Help.
there's this band called Skinny Lister. Has anybody heard of Skinny Lister?
Nope.
All right. You all have homework for tonight. And next week we can meet back here and we could talk about Skinny Lister. No, oh come on, you like Flogging Molly, you like Skinny Lister.
I think
I'm gonna
that's a
make
different
like high
podcast.
school and copy off of JJ.
Look, I listen to the Rum Jacks. That's about as I'm not really a Flogging Molly kind of guy. Just being
I
honest.
too listen to bands no one has ever heard of.
Oh my god, yeah, who's that, Greg? Weren't you
You
in a
guys
band?
ever heard of Fourth and Forgotten?
No.
That's Greg's
well.
band that he plays bass for.
You guys ever heard of Johnny Party and the Furious Funksters?
No. Is it funk music? I don't
Oh.
like it.
Oh
What?
no,
ZZ Top?
It's like 90s rock.
ZZ Top.
You guys ever heard of the Spice Girls?
Oh yeah, they were good back in the day.
Goddamn right they were. They're still good. I don't care what anyone says.
Is it?
So
Yep.
going off the tangent.
Do you put that in your Tinder
um,
profile, Greg? Is that
So-
like the Spice Girls when they were uncool?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Greg is a Spice Girls hipster.
Spice Girl.
And
All right,
this
that's
is when they swipe him away because they think his profile's a bot. So yeah.
all right, don't pick on Greg. He's
So
a
yeah,
guest.
so
You can't pick on the
so going
guest.
off of stuff from like last week, and just in general for this, I think that there definitely needs to be an adjustment made for objectives in general for it. One of the things I thought that would probably help, specifically referring to having too many like swarm lists, like 7 and 8 ship lists, is just at least for a season or for a time actually having AMG reduce the ship count forcibly down to like 6 ships max. This forces players to take a lot more creative approach at filling out those points, making sure that they're getting some of the bigger like pilots in there, since they'll be a lot more meaningful and have a greater impact on the objectives. One of the other things I thought was actually just increasing the objective points as well, which can hopefully increase the amount of time that the game actually takes. In that way, they're not finishing at the right below the 1 hour mark overall, and hopefully adjusting the game that way as well.
So the only issue that I have with that, JJ, is, and this again speaking purely on a statistical standpoint, when we look at on the average, people are bringing 6 ships or less. Setting the max at 6 ships changes absolutely nothing.
Also,
Fair.
I'm not a fan of
JJ.
restricting. I'm not like. You should be able to bring 2 ships if you want to. Like, granted, you're going to lose, but you should be able to do it.
Yeah. But to be fair, Greg, let's look at the statistics. The 3 ship lists that people are bringing are objectively like 2 ship lists with Lieutenant Blount thrown in because he fits in so many different archetypes. Like I'm gonna run Boba Fett, or I'm gonna run Guri Fenn, and then I'm gonna throw a Z95 in to fill out the additional points.
I totally agree. Like a 2 ship list would lose every game easily.
But it's my choice to lose, damn it.
Exactly. Like, why restrict the list building options? Which is why I don't want to set a top limit lower than 8 either, because we're already schisming X-Wing right now. I don't want to tell 2-3 ship list players you're not welcome, and 8-7 ship players you're not welcome. Like, we start going 3 to 6. That's between 2 and 8, 3 to 6. We've eliminated half those possibilities. We've cut out 50% of lists already if we do that. There's definitely a robust argument right now over whether list building is more or less creative. I personally feel like it's a little less creative now because there's just you're prioritizing a number of ships instead of really like around like a central theme or something. But that's neither here nor there. If we further restrict that, we are further restricting any kind of creativity, and I am not a fan of that.
So
I think, sorry, Chris, I don't mean to step on you, but looking at scenario play, right? I think that having random scenarios is good But right now, every scenario we have, with the exception of chance encounter, favors larger numbers of ships. If we made it to where it required 3 small base ships to pick up an object, 2 medium base ships to pick up an object, or like a medium base and a small, or a large base by itself to pick up an objective, right? Then we're encouraging intermingling of the different bases, and obviously then you have to get creative, but figuring out a way to balance the objectives so they don't sit so heavy on more bodies on the field equals winning, right? Figure out a way to score the objectives, or including additional objectives like in the scenarios that can be bent, that if I run 3 large base ships, I have the opportunity, instead of only being able to carry 1 objective per ship, a large base ship can carry multiple objectives. Then my large base ship can score 2 or 3 because I kill one of your ships and pick it up. I'm not saying that these are the answers in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just spitballing
But
ideas.
you know it's already a concern for them because they made medium and large base ships count for 2 in assault. Like, so it's already been something that they've seen, that flying a large base ship because it's more expensive hurts your list. So they've already tried to negate that a little bit, but they just haven't made it.
Agreed.
So I'm going to interject for a second. Can I pose the question of, I think the idea that we want to take the more ships to score the more objective points, like, what if we just haven't figured out the meta per se? Like let me be the dissenting Johnny here and say that maybe there's things that we don't know because the game has changed so drastically that we don't have all of the accurate information and data. And I will tell you, I'm not a list building guru. So I took my list in 2.0 and converted them to 2.5 and then tweaked or threw them away, depending on what it was, you know.
Do you play Elden Ring?
I do, yes.
How many characters do you have?
Just one, and I'm at 45.
4.
Yeah, you've played 4. So
Yep.
that first boss, how do you beat that first boss?
I'll be honest with you. Greg, I'll throw myself under the bus. I'm fine. All 4 characters have done the same thing. I found an 11-minute video online, and then I found a sleeping dragon. Those 2 things have leveled all 4 of my characters to like level 41. I have not completed a single storyline objective. It has just been wandering, and oh look, that guy looks like I could kill him. Oh nope, I'm wrong. He's gonna kill me, and then I start over again. But
so you found a video online and you're just kind of following that, is what I'm getting.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, great. How long has Elden Ring been out? 2 weeks?
A week
and a half
week
weeks?
and a half, 2 weeks,
2
somewhere
weeks.
in there.
Yep.
And there's already videos online. Like, it does not take long to find out how to play these things. And the way X-Wing has always worked and the way these games have always worked is everyone does the same thing. Someone does something new. If it works because it's on stream, everyone does that thing.
Yep.
The idea that we have not found the meta or whatever, I agree with it to the extent that we haven't had any huge tournaments that have actually played objectives. But I think what we're seeing now, especially with what I'm calling the Yorktown openings, is what everyone's going to go with for the foreseeable future until one person innovates, and then everyone's going to go with that. Just like Nantex,
That's how it's
one
always
person
worked.
did well, then everyone started using it.
So hold on then. I come from Star Wars Destiny. So what you're telling me is that this game is shit and there isn't a lot of creativity to how to play the game. That's what you're that's and I'm not trying to be an asshole. I guess I'm a little bit of an asshole, but that's what I feel you're telling me, Greg, is that like the ability to innovate and improvise inside of this game is way too limited. And when I got into the game,
1,000%. Yeah, I agree with that right now. Yeah, 100%.
Even in 2.0.
It's not that people are dumb. It's that the way to, and again, this is all presupposing that you are playing to win the game. I know there is a subsect of people who will play not caring about whether they win or not. And those people are probably free to do things a little differently. I'm talking more like tournament play, more like people playing to win.
So hold on. I'm going to speak a little more generally here, Chris, and I'm just going to throw Star Wars Destiny in the mix, along with Magic the Gathering, along with Flesh and Blood, along with any competitive style game. When someone finds a formula that works, when someone finds a deck that removes a lot of the variance, when someone finds something that works, the meta shifts to that. This is every competitive game that I've ever played. Star Wars Destiny with the Poe decks that could manipulate dice rolls so that it removed the variance from rolling dice. Magic the Gathering with any major competitive deck. The same with Flesh and Blood. When a character starts winning, people traverse to that with Briar or Starro. Looking at X-Wing from 1.0 through now, every time there has been a list that has been an archetype that has won anything, the meta shifts to that until someone figures out some awkward combination that nobody else has ever looked at, or has figured out a way to fly a list in a way that nobody has ever looked at. And I'll call out 2 defenders with a shuttle and just sticking in the corner and fortressing until you could force engagement. The answer to that, 3 jump masters with plasma torpedoes. There's always been a balancing factor, but the meta has always shifted towards what works. Every single competitive game that I have ever been a part of, no matter how small my involvement, has always had some sort of a meta where it shifts towards what works.
So
that doesn't mean that the competitive space is limited. It just means that people want to win.
So
right, the Bucks bought Tom Brady because they wanted to win, and that's sports ball. And I get that's not your thing, but it's
Why
the reality.
you gotta bring that up? We're all having
I was
a nice
waiting.
conversation.
I was literally counting down the minute that you were gonna bring up Tom Brady. I was waiting.
We're all having a good time here, just respectfully going at each other, and you're like, oh, by the way, Tom fucking Brady.
So the discussion piece, and this is where this is where I would disagree to some extent. And I guess I feel bad because I feel like I'm defending X-Wing more than I normally would, because in fairness, I feel Star Wars Destiny has a greater depth than X-Wing does to some extent. And I would even kind of say that a little bit about Flesh and Blood per se, right? I don't know Magic well enough because I don't really play it anymore. I haven't played it in over like 15 years because I don't want to hang out with smelly people. That's the truth. Seriously, I don't like smelly.
It's 100% the truth.
It's bad. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I if you play Magic and you don't smell, like, great, good for you, bro. like the rest of y'all fuckers smell. There you go. Let's start a podcast war with a magic podcast. But okay. Yeah. The thing one of the things when I switched from Destiny to X-Wing, one of the big things I had is because there was different archetypes, right? There was different ways to play. There was different win conditions, different styles of winning. You could mill a deck, you could aggro a deck, you could control a deck, you could put out supports and have a support style deck. There's a lot of different things, and they all had different counters, but there was a higher variance to some of that. And then there was hard counters. I played a burn deck. That was my favorite. Literally, my favorite was a burn deck. You know, like in the aspect of, because it had the consistency. You either won or lost within 3 turns, and you knew it, and you were done. I think X-Wing has that possibility, or had that possibility before, and I feel that the way that they have changed things opens that door. I think we see more restrictions in terms of how you build pilots. I think that's kind of shitty. Right? Because I get a loadout points and I know what I want to use them for. And I'm only going to take a few upgrades I've never taken before, because in reality, they're not still worth the points. Unless you want to give me 7 talent slots. Give me 7 fucking talent slots, and I'll take all sorts of shit that you've never seen before. But I feel we're discounting X-Wing by saying that the meta is solved. I think maybe the meta is solved for what we know. And maybe this is an evolutionary thing that a lot of people, like a discussion point that people have a hard time about. Like in evolution, we have adaptation, right? And if we understand all of these different things, like when we talk about morals, right? Like back 50 years ago, it was always wrong to be mean to black people. It was always wrong to enslave black people. It was always wrong to tell black people that they shouldn't get to vote. But back then, all these people thought they were morally superior and they were doing black people a good thing because they were like, oh, you can go ahead and vote, right? Like you can vote, but we're still going to not let you own businesses, do all these other things and this and that, right? But that doesn't mean, so as we evolve intelligently, we're going to figure these things out and understand that. I think if you look at X-Wing in the same manner and you say, okay, hey, we now have this meta. How do we re-innovate past it? We haven't talked about obstacle placement. We haven't talked about objective placement. There is a way to get it so that you can have 3 objectives close to you and your opponent gets 2, right? So like there's a way to do these things that just haven't been voiced. They're planning things that people have not gone into. So my question, and again, and maybe I'm just being obtruse and being a pissy about it, but like I'm saying is like, I feel boiling the game down to saying there's just too meta, like it's a meta, it's been solved, blah, 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 until somebody figures out. I feel that reduces the game to pennies or like nothingness. And at that point, why are we sitting here having a podcast about that? Like, why don't we find a more in-depth game? And I feel that X-Wing has that. And I personally, I feel that the changes that have made are moving towards that. There are some rough spots and there's some imbalance. And as you've pointed out through your statistics, there's probably some changes that could be made to rebalance the game in a more positive light. But I have a harder time when we take and disintegrate the X-Wing game down and boil it down after, a month, not even a month of changes. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
I hear you. But I feel like that, first off, the example of placing objectives, I don't want game to 1 in turn 0. Like, I don't want that, like, at all. I think, honestly, like, this is just my personal opinion. I don't really expect anyone to agree with me. But I think objectives should have, like, starting areas, like, set starting areas. Because I want it to be as fair as possible if we're going to let those decide games. Secondly, I don't think that the meta changes until someone makes it change, and it's always one person, and it's always because they're on GSP at the final of a tournament. Right now, I call it the Yorktown opening. It's everyone just lining up across the board in a line like an old Revolutionary War right now. And I think Adepticon is going to be very telling for this. I think that's what we're going to see at Adepticon. I think we're going to see 50% or more of those lists being rebels. Like, that's just where the game is right now. And I don't feel like that's a game with a lot of depth. Right now, I think, again, there are changes that they can make to give it that depth, to give it that multiple thing. And I'm comparing this to, and listen, like, I am not against giving AMG credit where credit is due. The last 2.0 points update they did, I thought was absolutely fantastic. I have never seen such a wide variety of things being absolutely viable as that last points update they did. I thought the changes to the gas cloud, fantastic. And honestly, I think all the changes to the obstacles are great. I like hard mode obstacles. They're supposed to be bad. I like that bad things happen. So there's stuff that, like, I like that they've done, but I think right now the game as it sits today is not a wildly variable game in the sense of what it takes to win, the style people are playing, and honestly, even the factions. Like, I know a lot of people here are scum players, and God bless you, but on stream, I'm not seeing a lot of scum because the standard mode of play has taken a lot of scum, and I don't like saying neutered, but it's spayed. They've spayed scum a little bit here because scum doesn't have a lot of the variety in black box that other factions do. to keep
So-
them viable.
So I'm going to make a sports ball reference here for the two other people in this room that watch sports ball. So in the last 2 minutes, a team that's up on points gets the ball in football. What do?
Okay. 2-minute drill, baby.
Yep,
Wait, no,
they
they're
kneel
up?
the ball.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
okay, I
up.
thought
They're up on
yeah,
points.
kneel.
They freaking kneel the ball.
How
Why?
many timeouts does the other team have?
It doesn't matter. Let's go with the fact that they kneel the ball. Let's go with the
Hey,
fact that they kneel the ball.
If
Why
you're
do
late
they kneel the ball?
2000s,
They
if you're
kneel the
late
ball
2000s
because-
Patriots, you throw a touchdown. That's what you do.
But why do they kneel the ball?
Because it's the safest way to win the game.
Correct. What do they want to do? They want to win the game. That is the end all be all of any competitive situation. It's not to have fun. I don't care what your coaches told you in Pee Wee. I don't care what BS the people that you paid for your little T-shirt jersey was. It's not about having fun. People play sports. People play competitive games because they want to win. Period. End of story. It doesn't matter viability of list. It doesn't matter, oh, this is fun. This is fun. Yes, I play for fun. Do you know how often I've won a tournament? Never. Never once in almost 10 years of playing X-Wing have I ever won a tournament. Why? Because I fly what's
You play
fun.
scum.
Because I fly what I enjoy. No, you're fine. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But because I fly what I find fun. I don't fly what's meta. I don't care about winning. I fly what I find fun, and I fly what I'm going to enjoy for the 6.5 hours that I have to stand at a table and make small talk with complete strangers and move plastic ships around a table. That's what's important to me, is that I'm able to enjoy myself. When you look at Duncan Howard, you look at the major world champions, you look at a lot of the players, and Ali as well. They fly what they are good at. They fly what they know is going to win because they want to win. It has nothing to do with the depth of playability because there's millions of lists that are playable. And on any 100 games with that list, they might win one. It's not viable because it's not what's winning. It's not that people aren't willing to dig in. It's that what is the shortest point from building a list to winning a tournament? For the longest time, let's call it what it was. That was Nantex. It didn't require skill. It didn't require anything. I bumped my Nantex into your ships. I barrel rolled out. I took my range one shot. I won. That's all it was. For the longest time, that's what won. And that's what everyone brought. Go back and look at the first Galaxies tournament and how many top 16s were Nantex v Nantex v Nantex v Nantex v Nantex, because it's what won. Right? This is not like touting that, but when something works and I no longer have to think about what I want to build because it's proven to work, I'm bringing that. It's not about lack of depth. It's not about lack of creativity. It's about wanting to win. Right? The movie Moneyball proved that. If you can change the system and you can win with it, everybody is going to change their system to what you won with, if it is more viable for them. So when we look at X-Wing, when we look at any competitive sport, when we look at any competitive game where the objective is to win the tournament, it's not about bringing fun. When I went to LVO, there were so many Defender Vader lists. There were so many Extreme Maneuvers Kylo lists. There were so many. Do you know how many people flew double fire sprays?
A lot. There were so many double fire sprays.
Well, I will say that someone stood at my table and called one individual at LVO a coward during LVO for flying double fire sprays. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be. But
was
they
it
were
Greg?
correct.
Was that
Yeah,
Greg?
definitely was Greg calling me a coward for flying double fire sprays. But either way, I flew double fire sprays because it worked and it gave me a chance at winning. It was not something that I had previous practice with. It was not something that I was good with. It was just a solid archetype. I would have flown 2 YV666s if one of them hadn't gotten destroyed in my carry-on
Yeah, I heard,
luggage on my
you
way
were
to
flying. Someone told me you were flying double fire sprays because one of your ships got like destroyed.
Yeah, one of my YV, I originally brought 2 YVs and a Falcon, and one of my YVs got destroyed in my carry-on luggage, and I couldn't. I called 4 different shops in and around Vegas, as well as all of the vendor hall. No one had a replacement YV for me to be able to use, so I went with double fire sprays. But neither here nor there. Again, the point is to win. And if someone figures out the combination that wins, you fly that combination because it works. It's not that I'm not creative. It's not that I don't want to fly other things. It's that I paid $40 to sit down at this tournament so that I can have a chance at getting some plastic templates. I'm going to fly what is proven to win.
So I think
Period.
so great. But I think the difference is, and this is where I want to clarify, is I feel that some of the changes are pushing for a more diverse meta than we had before, personally.
I think that you'd like to
like,
believe
I-
that,
I'm-
but
I'm
when we
just-
look at what's happening right now, everything's a swarm. That's
So
not
how
a
about-
diverse meta.
okay,
That's
so hold on.
everything being
All
a
right.
swarm.
Good. Let's have a conversation about that real quick.
Sure.
The tournament that happened this weekend, what do you think the top list was?
Swarm. Or
How
no,
many-
no, because they only flew one They only flew one engagement. They
Yeah, they
flew
didn't
the
play the
surprise
whole-
engagement. That was not a direct tournament where they're picking from one of four differents. So you had a 25% chance of getting what flew for your list. So I would
Right.
assume I
How
don't
about
know
Kyber
what
Cup?
was the top list.
It was, hold on, how about Kyber Cup did this? What do you
Did
think the
Kyber
top
Cup
list in
adhere to the
Kyber Cup
rules of
was?
selecting the one of four scenarios every round?
Yeah, they only did 2 rounds, but yes.
So
I don't know why, but think about it. So what was it? What do you think it was? A swarm? It wasn't.
I would say that was a no. What was it?
Nope. It was a Vader, a 3-ship list.
Vader and Inquisitors?
Vader, something like that, yeah. And the top one at the one from Texas or from Houston, I guess it's fucking Houston, was Wedge, Fen, Hera, AP5, right? So I get that there's some limited information, and I get that there's that. I still think there is a lot more to it. The second list was a Lando, Gina, Sparadew X-Wing. I don't know who the hell that is. And Kraken Z95.
So, Chris, I'm going to go on record right now with Greg as a witness and with JJ as a witness. Okay? Adepticon. If they play according to the tournament rules where they select a new scenario every round for the first 4 rounds, and then the last 2 rounds are completely random, Adepticon will be won by a swarm. If it's not, I'll buy you a bottle of scotch.
How much?
So hang on, we do have some
$50
information.
hold on,
Granted, it's
$50 cap. I will buy you a bottle of scotch.
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, the Cherokee Open was probably the first real tournament that we got to see with 2.0 in full swing, right? Because they were playing for
Mhm.
all the objectives with they selected a random one each turn. In that particular tournament, I mean, we got to see that more than half of the list, especially the ones that made the top cut, that was purely Rebel. And the one that won the Cherokee Open, if I'm not mistaken, was a 3 B-wing list with like 2 other ships.
Yeah. So not a swarm.
Yeah.
So
Granted,
I don't know.
there were several A-wing lists in there in the top cut. But
so
still.
I will, and again, I won't sit there and say that it was. I think it was a 3 B-wing list or 2 B-wing list. But so I won't say that Rebel might be still positioned to be best. But I've argued that for even in 2.0 days that Rebel is overpowered and should be neutered in some way, shape, or form. Personally, I think they should be neutered. But I don't think that changes in this meta. I still think Rebel has toys that they killed out of Scum. I think that's the problem is they went to Black Box per se and they killed Scum, and Scum had toys and extended that they don't have now, that we used to have in hyperspace that we don't have. And I think some of them will come back, but again, they were neutered pretty heavily compared to like Rebel was never neutered. Like X-Wing has always favored Rebel, probably because of the fucking
title.
movies.
The title is X-Wing. There's
No, I
only
agree
one
with that. They've
faction that
never Rebels have always gotten everything. Fuck Rebels, although I
Yeah.
like to play Rebels. But here's my thing. In Cherokee Open, the winner was a 3-ship list. Absolutely. What was what the next highest 3-ship list finished in? What place?
Like 47th or something like that.
I think it's 25.
Okay. It was low. It was like the end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I have a hard time saying that a 3-ship list. This sounds like a 3-ship list phoned by a really good player rather than like a meta darling here. Because I'm looking at the Cherokee Open right now, and it is a lot of Rebel, a lot of 5-ship lists.
Yep.
It is.
5 ships are not a swarm. 5 ships are not a swarm. They
I think it
officially
absolutely
stated
is
a
a
swarm
swarm.
is 7 or more, but
Who stated that?
AMG, AM fucking G. I asked it on
No,
stream on
whoa.
purpose. Yes,
Who gives? Oh,
I do.
please.
Bullshit.
Are we
Bullshit.
going? Are we about to do? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we want to get down. You want to get down, Greg?
Yeah, it was Plumber. Plumber had said that on stream. when
I
you asked it, I
specifically
remember.
because
Yeah.
it's an argument I've had with a lot of people that I don't believe 6 ships are a swarm. I definitely don't believe 5 ships are a swarm at all.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so wait. Oh, I see. So this list fortress thing is not. Was the Cherokee won by a 3-ship list, or
No,
was it?
That was the only list
Why
that
are
had
they
not
at
been
the
defeated.
top in this? Do they do it by the cut rank and not what they finished on this list?
Yes,
fortress?
yes.
Okay,
if you
so
look,
the 3-ship list finished in 16th, is what you're telling me.
yes, because they lost in the first round.
Okay.
So what
all right.
won?
5-ship list.
Yes.
Rebels. Which
So your
would seem
3-ship
to reinforce a point I didn't even know I was happy about.
And that is?
That 3-ship lists are not great.
I think Empire 3-ship lists are not great. I think once we get a Razor Crest and a Gauntlet Fighter, things change a little bit. And I will tell you, we have done some testing in Scum with some of the Gauntlet Fighters. And
I'll tell you what, the Razor Crest in pure combat, pretty good.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
especially the Mandalorian. Yep.
We got 3 minutes left. We're gonna get so Greg, you can shout out where the hell they can find you. That's what we should do with every guest, even though everybody probably knows where the fuck to find you. And if you donate to Greg, just remember that 49% of whatever you donate to Greg, it comes to Plainy Face Syndicate. So if you don't want to donate to us, you're welcome to donate to Greg, and he will donate the remainder 49% to us. As
Yep, that's
we
totally
see
going to
fit.
happen. Donate to me at Nickel City X-Wing, and then don't follow up upon that 49%. Don't worry. You can trust me, wink.
Either which way. Thank you, Greg, for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure to.
Thank you for
It
having me.
was a pleasure to have you on. Even if you want to, you try to be the dissenting voice, but in reality, you love X-Wing too much to be dissenting. And you're
It's-
too.
You know what it is? It's I feel like there are mega issues with this game, but I also don't want to be. It's so hard to be Nick because I don't want to like. This is not something I enjoy, like going on my Discord and being like, I have a problem with this. I want to be like, guys, check out this new cool thing. But like it's so clear to me right now that there are problems, and the problems are making the game, I don't want to say not fun, but I'm not enjoying it as much because of the problems. I do not find I get a sense of satisfaction from winning games via objectives as a player. And then as someone who casts games, I have noticed that games are ending in turn 3, and then we have 2 turns of inevitability playing out. And it's just not enough time in games right now to foster comebacks, large swings, or anything. So the excitement of those games, and I'm doing my best as a caster because I have a responsibility to my audience and to try and grow to make the game as exciting as possible. So I'm trying to hype up moments that I know don't matter. Like it's hard sometimes, but like I want this to be awesome. I really do. Like I don't know how to convince anyone of that, but like as someone who runs a channel, runs a Twitch that always wants to be growing, X-Wing being bad would be bad for me. I want this to be good. And like how much I want it to be good. Think how much like Dion and Scott want it to be good. Like that's real money, real livelihood for them. Like if my channel was taken away from me tomorrow, I would hate it. I'd be sad. But like, I'm not eating this month. You know.
I don't eat.
So look,
I wish I did.
correct. I need to stop eating. Clearly,
You and me both, bro. You and me both. We're in that same teams right there.
but yeah. So like, I don't like. If anyone thinks that I'm viewing AMG as like the enemy here, I don't. I would love it for them to be a partner, but I just feel like everything they've communicated has suggested that they do not care about my opinion.
So,
and by my opinion, I mean the community, just from things they've said. And again, I get that they're not great at PR, but like, it's been a while, guys. Hire someone, get some training or something, you know, like, come on.
all right. Well, I will end the show by saying I disagree. I agree with you on their PR is trash. Like any normal company would have lost revenue shares by now. Like the game would not exist at this point based on how they do PR. But I think we have a game that we can love, and I agree with you, Greg. I think your goal is amicable to say, hey, you know, how can we help you maintain or improve the game? And maybe it's a discussion that needs to be had with some of the other content creators to say, how do we capture games and some of this data so that we can give it to AMG on the sly, so they don't have to acknowledge some of these other things exist, but can acknowledge the data, because I do think that they make changes more frequently and more on par than FFG ever did, personally. And that's me coming from playing Star Wars Destiny, where FFG would say, nope, you get 6 months of this garbage meta. Merry Christmas. Go fuck it. You know.
Yeah, I think their only changes though are like a wide sweeping change to the game. Like we don't know how often they're actually intending to make changes. And
you're right.
From what they said, they don't want a helicopter parent. And that to me, it means like we don't want to make a lot of changes. I'm hoping that they mean kind of after they find the final form they want in this, and not like right away.
Yep. And I would disagree, or not disagree, but I would point out that I do feel that they want to make some changes pretty quickly. And they have openly stated that once data starts rolling in. So if they want to play the FFG game, when they hit the official first large tournament of 200 people, they can make changes at that point, because they can say the data's there, even if the data's been there for the last month.
Right. My worry about that is they'll have like list data, but they won't have like the turn data, the time data, the how many points come from objectives, how many points come from ships data, which is why I am trying to collect that in some vain hope that, you know, I can post it on Fly Better, and maybe one of the Fly Better people who actually has a communication line with them can be like, here's some data, do with it what you will.
Nope. And I think, again, that goes back to, let's have, like, again, as content creators, working with other content creators might be a way to change that. Because I will ask, like, I will go back to Scott and say, hey, are you capturing this data too? Because, hey, Greg's doing it, and you have a bigger pool because you cast, I don't know what, 6 days a week, and Greg only casts 3 days a week. You know, maybe we can get more people on board with capturing this data. And maybe this is all in the works, and, you know, we just don't know. Maybe Greg, we're just the oddball out kids. Usually that's me, but I'll lump you in with that if it makes you feel better. So,
I mean, maybe, and like it's very possible that they will just not care, but it's still going to be good to have the data, and, you know, if nothing else, for my own thing, at least it kind of gives me a little, if I'm ever like in an argument arguing something, I can be like, well, here's what I'm basing this off of. It's not like just subjective memory or whatever.
Fair enough. All right. Well, it's 11 o'clock. We went a half hour over what I thought we would go, to be honest with you. As it is, next week we will be talking about Adepticon. Charles is going to help us figure out what scum list that JJ and I are gonna fly, and maybe we should. Maybe JJ and I should fly whatever list Charles tells us to fly, because that's all right. That's a bad idea because Charles is gonna fuck with us.
No. That's not what I would do. I would build a viable list.
Yep. 7 Z95s. Have fun, boys.
Have fun, Scarlet.
Have fun spending $200 to get that list, and then
All right.
you had a Decepticon.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us. We will be back next week, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, maybe with Greg's lovely face, maybe without Greg's lovely face. We'll see. We will continue to, we will post a link to Greg's data in the show notes for the show this week on YouTube and on Podbean. And then we can, if anybody wants to contribute to that, Greg has offered to open the sheet up to them. So with that being said, thank you. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.